Click on this. I'm assuming to get rid of that. Welcome, you guys. I'm Tammy, and I'm at the Broken Bow at the Custer County Museum. And today's topic for Museum Musings is weird and unusual items or occurrences that have happened at your museums. And I just want to go around and give a little where everybody's at right quick. Looks like Karen, you're in Lincoln, probably.
There we go. I'm in Lincoln at the Nebraska State Capitol in the basement.
Okay. And Karen? Or Katie?
I'm Katie. I'm at the Hastings Museum in Hastings.
And Brock?
I'm Brock Anderson. I'm the Community Engagement Director for the Buffalo County Historical Society and Trails and Rails Museum in Kearney.
And Lynn?
I am eating my breakfast in my dining room in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm retired, but I still serve on the National Museum and Library Services Board.
Have a lot of involvement yet. Yeah. And up in Gehring, probably. Legacy of the Plains?
Yeah, Dave Wolf up in here in Gehring, Legacy of the Plains.
Okay. Yeah. Welcome, you guys. And Aaron is over in, Aaron. Kelly,
yeah, I'm Kelly. I'm in Lincoln at History, Nebraska.
Yeah. So, and I have a little piece I'm gonna read. Do my little things. Is I've had a couple of weird occurrences, and then you guys can do an example of what we're kind of going to go through. I kind of put some ideas down. One of mine was recently we had the door open to the front door of the museum for a short time, and people were going in and out carrying items as we were unloading the bus, for our living history tour. We were bringing in coolers or bags of paper and props, lawn chairs for emergency use, walkie-talkies for the radio to communicate from the bus to the automobiles. I found it after we unloaded. I had a short conversation with a board member on event note cards for the next coming event that was to be sent out very shortly. And after she left, I was sitting at the computer. It was quiet. It was doing, and then there was this noise. I thought it was an odd noise compared to the usual building noises that our museum makes. And you hear different little things that go off and things. And I heard that sound again and again. And I started looking to see what it was. And then the next thing you know, there it was. It zoomed past me. I had a bird flying through the museum. And my first thought was disbelief. And how did I get a live bird in here? And how am I going to get him out? I don't know if it's a boy or girl, but then I took a couple of photos just to prove that I did have a bird in here. I did have one earlier during Easter, no, after Halloween. So I didn't take pictures of that one and no one believed me. So I had to take pictures. Then I opened the front door in which it come in. I was hoping it would go back out. Then I started chasing it around, making noises, flapping my arms, but I was not doing the chicken dance. My thought was, wow, that thing can fly fast. Bam, right into the front window. Oh. Just 2 feet from the open door. Oh. And he was down and on the floor. And my thought was, I'm not going to grab him. I did not have gloves. And I thought, no, I don't know I'm not going to get scratched and pecked by a bird. He might be on the floor, but not disabled. So I went back, he got up and it's like and I'm thinking, what can I get with him? So I grabbed a pan off of the cooking exhibit near me, a frying pan thing. Okay. it's going to bap him, and whapped him. And he went going. It's like, this bird has hit the window. He's been hit by a pan. He's still going. And he's just that far from the door. So there I go again, chasing him around, flapping my arms and trying to make noise to get him out the door. Amazingly, how many places that bird can land in the museum? How many little hiding places do you have in your place if you had a bird get in? And how do you know where he's at and he's out? It's like, he has nothing else in here. And that was my Halloween one. When I seen him, we had the day before we had Halloween, and I'm thinking, how long has he been in here? There was no evidence around. It's like, there's nothing for him to eat, for grain or anything like that. So I thought, okay, whatever. I finally got him chased out by flapping my arms and making noise, and out he went. But the agonizing part of that is he kept coming to my glass door for several days. I don't know if it was him or another bird, but it's like, you're not coming in, bird.
I would have thought he would have been happier to escape, but apparently not.
Somebody wanted to come back in saying, oh, okay. It's like, maybe he liked the air conditioning. I don't know, but it was May, so there was no difference in temperature kind of in and out.
Well, maybe it was like a carnival ride. No,
it's like up and down on the roller coaster. It's like, he's up above, he's down below. Yes, I did take the pictures, so I do know I had a bird in here.
Or maybe it was more entertainment for the bird to watch you and trying to get it out.
And I was thinking, okay, yes, that might have been flapping around doing that, but I wasn't doing the chicken dance, I don't think. So anybody else have some weird items that has occurred in their museum, and how did they resolve their odd things? Anybody want to go?
Well, we had at the Nebraska History Museum a sort of unsavory occurrence that did involve two-legged creatures, but they were both allegedly human. And on the third floor of the museum, at one time, we had an exhibition about World War II. And we tried to create a little mini theater. We had used auditorium seating from the Fort Robinson. At that point, Fort Robinson was still a fort, and they had an auditorium, and we had acquired some of that seating into the collection. So we had a couple of rows of those sort of classic wooden, fold down the seat, fold up the seat when you try to leave the row. So not exactly comfy, but it was a darkened space. And then we had a big screen TV. And on the big screen TV, we showed some of the Army Signal Corps' amazing footage of VJ Day in 1945 in North Platte. So, people on the street, people honking and driving and going crazy. And then we also had a couple of chunks of Warner Brothers cartoons. So when you sat down to watch the whole thing, it was sort of like being at the movies, because first you got a couple of cartoons and then you got the feature. And needless to say, the lighting was dimmed in that area to provide for the best possible viewing experience. Well, one day our security people noticed what seemed like sort of weird movement. Obviously, it was hard to see what was going on in this area with video cameras. But anyway, the guard went upstairs, and there were two people who were having sex in the seats of the auditorium. And so needless to say, he suggested to them that that was not the appropriate place for them to engage in such behavior. And then it turned out that they were both totally inebriated. And this is like, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning or whatever. So then he concludes that he's not going to be able to get him out of the building without some uproar. So then he calls LPD. So the police come, they haul these people off to detox. But then the best part was the next day when our, the Lincoln Journal-Star, the newspaper, it wasn't page 1, but it was in the local section, and it says, couple arrested for having sex in museum. So somehow it had shown up on the police blotter, and some enterprising reporter said, well, this sounds a lot more interesting than somebody stealing cigarettes from Casey's. So let's go. And of course, we were sort of distressed about it because we thought, well, so much for our image of a, family-friendly environment and that sort of thing. And then some wisecrackers on the staff said, who knows? We say we want to serve a wide variety of audiences. Maybe there are some people who will be attracted to our museum if they think that these sorts of shenanigans go on. But needless to say, we became somewhat more alert to what one person called the people of the street, who frequently came in to perform all sorts of functions because we were a free, no admission museum, and we are on the pathway between the city mission and the sort of daytime mission for people. So at any rate.
You made the news and you conquered and it is like, yes, how on earth? Yes.
Yeah. So that was pretty weird.
Mm-hmm. And Brock, you had your hand up about the same time.
Yeah, mine's not as climatic as something like that. But just this last maybe a couple months, we had a busy day, and it was about maybe 4 or 4:30, and we were just all drained here at the museum. And so we had noticed in the parking lot, because I can see the parking lot from here to see if anyone's coming in. And I noticed there was this gal kind of hanging around my vehicle on the front side in the grassy part. And so I'm kind of watching her, and I'm also trying to do some work at the same time. And finally, I noticed that she was coming toward the front door. But she had something on her shoulder that was just chilling there. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect when I went to the front door to greet her. But she had a rabbit that was running back and forth on her shoulder, and like all up in the front of her, and kind of even trying to get up on her head. And I was just I was taken back, because most of the time, people will say, hey, can I bring my dog in? And I'll say no, because of, or is it a pet, or is it a service animal, because we don't allow pets. But anyways, she comes in, and this thing is crawling all over her. And all I could think about was, if this thing gets loose like a bird in the Broken Bow Museum, because I've heard that story from you before, Tammy, how was I going to catch it? Because I'm not the quickest on my feet. And this gal doesn't seem like she's got much control of it. And so I greet her. I ask her, I said, oh, that's a very cute rabbit you've got there. She said, thank you. And I said, is it a pet? She said, yes, it is my pet rabbit. And I'm like, unfortunately, we don't allow pets in our museum, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards about the safety and preservation of our artifacts. And so she kind of gave me this glare and this look, and then instantly turned around. And then at the same time, all this going on, this rabbit's going back and forth, jumping all over the place on her. And I'm surprised it never just like flew off of her. But she ended up leaving, and that was the last I saw of her. She came back the same way. I was really hoping she wasn't going to throw any like rabbit poop at my pickup if she knew that was my vehicle. But so, yeah, I mean, that's how we divulged one kind of weird incident that happened this summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting. My internet seems to have a little problem right now that it's like doing. Katie, did you have an item, or somebody else on next? Or Karen?
Most of my stuff, you know, since I don't interact with the public a lot. I mean, I do when they find their way in the basement, but I can't tell you how many people, you know, so the basement at the Capitol is locked down and has been since, I don't know, Oklahoma City, but people find their way in all the time. And with the contractors, they don't understand the importance of keeping the basement locked. I mean, you would think that they would understand from the point of government building, but they don't seem to grasp that. So I find the doors open all the time, and I don't even want to know how many people get into the basement, because based on the number I'm seeing that all find the archives, I can't believe how many of them find the archives and just like walk in, because, you know, my door's cracked open a little bit. You can tell that there's a light on in here.
There's a door open, I can go in.
Yeah, well, apparently if the door's open or the light's on, you can just open it up and look. And yeah, I had somebody in here the other day who I did escort him out. I probably should have called security, but yeah. And then I get up to security and they're like, "Oh yeah, we've been tracking him through the building, but we lost him."
Watched him, just didn't do anything but watch him.
We lost track of him. I'm like, well, I found him. Yeah, I've had people down here who literally were off their meds. Like I found out later, she had some kind of medical break, and again called security. They never showed up. Got her out. So
yes,
my stuff's not too crazy. I mean, it could be, but
yeah, I like the bird and the rabbit and the things. Yeah, so far for the people.
But it sounds like you're like there's potential for something to really go wrong there. It's, you know, I'm very thankful nothing has gone seriously wrong, but yeah, there's potential.
I am very thankful, and I usually, you know, I have my phone on me. I do have duress alarms down here. They usually work, but I mean, like right now they're not working. But I found out a week ago they're not working. Apparently some contractor cut something and they haven't figured out where.
Whoops.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah.
Considering the variety of clientele that you get, you might want to reconsider keeping your door open. But I mean, I realize that then you still have a problem, because if you leave your office, you still don't know who's wandering around down there, and those halls are creepy. I mean, I've spent more time than I care to admit in the basement of the Capitol, and I understand the anxiety. But man, that from a risk management perspective, I find that really problematic, and I'm sort of appalled that the security people don't take it more seriously. You know, because you don't want to have something bad happen and then them say, "Oh, gee, I guess we should change something," you know?
And with that, in a weird way, do you do like a building search before you close? Because you've got so many areas they could go into.
Honestly, I have no idea what their protocol is. I know that the doors lock at a certain time, and that time changes depending on whether or not the legislature's in the building. I know that they have cameras. I know that they do walkabouts, but I don't think that they go into all of the areas.
I wonder how
mine, I usually just walk around the perimeter, the different areas that I know they've signed in, so you know who's in and out, basically. But how many, like a people count of in and people count out type thing, but yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, and honestly, my door isn't really open. I mean, it's just like pull it closed, but I can't easily, there's no way to lock it from the inside because it's an actual vault door, not a standard door. Yeah. So if I have a mechanism that locks it from the inside, then somebody from the outside can't get in if there's an emergency.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I wonder if any like stanchions somewhere in like a hallway would prevent people from walking down to your neck of the woods.
Or you mean like invite them this way because there's got to be something cool behind those stanchions?
I do think, though, this is an issue for an awful lot of our smaller organizations, though, is many of us have a single person opening and closing. I know at Chimney Rock, History Nebraska always had 2 people scheduled to work simply because they do a fair, or they used to do a fair volume of business in terms of store sales and that sort of thing. And there was the concern that somebody could hang till the end of the day and then jump somebody in the parking lot, because you know it's 1.5 miles off the highway. So I mean, if you want a remote location, it's, you know, it's right there. But that has its problems, and it's not practical for a lot of small organizations with small budgets or mostly volunteers and stuff. So I realize the safety and security isn't necessarily the theme of today's issue. It might be something we would want to.
Might be the next one. Topic for next idea. Anybody else have another idea, Katie or Mary or legacy up there?
I have a story I can share, but it's not from a place that I have worked at. I just know I have heard Megan Sothen talk about a weird incidents they had at the Gage County Historical Society in Beatrice. I think she or one of the other employees had gotten there in the morning, and they had a like baby buggy up on top of a cabinet with other artifacts in, and this baby buggy was on the floor, and they couldn't figure out like what exactly had happened. There was no other damage, like nothing else. It was just this one baby buggy was on the floor. And they pulled the security camera footage. Thankfully, they had a security camera that actually showed this baby buggy. And just all of a sudden, at one point in time, the baby buggy rolled off the cabinet that it was on. And there was no like air blowing on it, like nothing. They could never figure out how in the world this like baby buggy just decided to roll off the cabinet onto the floor. It was so yeah, then it was the, like, okay, like, ooh, is it ghost or, something like that. But yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, it was just very strange that.
Well, I guess, if we were talking ghost, I always say I have maybe a friendly ghost in here. The front door here, in the right time, the doorbell will go off and there's nobody and the door has not moved. So you can see clear path. It's like, there's nothing doing, but it goes off by itself. And I say, come on in and get busy cleaning. There's dust everywhere. So you could just pick up anything. And we're next to the Arrow Hotel, who supposedly has the one room over here that has some different things. People do pick that room. So, but it's like interesting of which way it is. Like, well, yeah, that's an odd piece, but yeah. Anybody else?
Well, Katie, you have somebody buried in the rotunda of your museum, so that's got to be sort of unusual.
Yeah, we get asked all the time if he's really buried there, and then why do you have him down here where people can walk on him? And so then we have to go in the whole history of how we used to be set up, and he's actually here by choice. We can show you the blueprint if you really want. A lot of people actually claim they can hear his second wife. She walked with a cane, and so they say they hear this clicking sound. We usually try to avoid it like on our overnighters, because then the scouts get scared if they start kind of like hearing that stuff. And of course, the way some of our lighting is, we have a giant house of one of the first citizens of Hastings, and the light cast on this porcelain doll on the inside, so it's really creepy. And so then people say like they see someone playing with that doll and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, all right. A lot of people think we're haunted. I haven't really, like, our museum's creepy at night. Like, I'll give them that, but I don't know. I don't think he haunts it. I feel like since he chose to be here, and half of me wants to be like, if you're afraid about him, I shouldn't tell you about the other dead bodies we have just over here.
Yeah, some different little things. We have had a few overnight college or professor or theses and dissertation people staying over here doing projects, but usually it's like, it's some pretty creepy things here at night. I said, really? Surprise.
I'm always more interested on, there's a lot of stories on why Albert's buried where he is. And a lot of times, oh, he fell over the railing. I'm like, really? So he fell and we just like laid cement on top of him? All right. But yeah, that's almost more interesting than the hauntings is why is Albert there?
So we had something happen yesterday.
Oh,
It was a horrible day yesterday. Coffee pot overflowed because it got plugged. Our pre-show, which shows a bunch of things, got just didn't decide not to work. Just a really bad day. So I left early, 4 o'clock, supposed to leave around 5:30. Get home in a grumpy mood. I get a phone call from one of my workers saying that we have a snake in the museum. And I assumed it was by the front door because we've had a snake there before. So I grabbed my shovel and head back to the museum, and they said it was in the doorway. So I'm thinking, okay, you just don't let it go any further. Well, it wasn't in the doorway, the entrance or back entrance to the doorway. It was into our exhibit hall, which of course is, 10,000 square feet. Okay. And I'm like, well, what kind of snake is it? They don't know. So we go to look, and I'm like, well, I can't really tell if it's a bull snake or a rattlesnake, but I know it's one of the two. It probably ended up being a rattlesnake, but it was like the size of a straw, like really, really thin, and probably about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 inches long. So it is a baby. So we scooped it up. They called animal control. So a sheriff came. We scooped it up with the shovel and put it into a large bucket, and then put it down by the road. But I told one of my friends this, and they go, usually where there's one baby rattlesnake, there's more than just one baby rattlesnake. So we're hoping we don't have a nest of rattlesnakes that's just, behind our back door, since we have people go out and see our longhorns and equipment and all that sort of stuff. So to book in with the bird, at least I wasn't going around chasing it. It pretty much stayed in one spot, but I was really worried about it going back into our exhibit hall because I don't know if we'd see it again until somebody starts screaming and running out because there's a snake there.
Yeah. And do you have something in there that he could eat off of and still get a little bigger and survive? And it's like,
there's lots of bugs.
You didn't bam him with a pan, but you used a spade or a scoop.
I just had a flat shovel, and we didn't want to kill it. So he just kind of scooped it up, but it was not happy to be messed with. So, but we put it out probably, a good 200-300 feet from our door, but I'm just waiting for one day to have here's a trail of 6 or 7 babies coming in to say hi. And we have the Game and Parks Commission meeting here this morning. So I'm going to talk to them about them training their wildlife not to come into my museum.
Good luck with that.
Have you had a problem with that before, Dave? Because where your building is located, it just seems like snakes would be outside, not that far from your museum.
In 2 years, I've never seen a rattlesnake. I've never seen a snake, period.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Other people have. We have a house that was moved over. It's decorated in 1950s, 1930s. And there is a mutant rhubarb plant. This thing is probably 5 feet wide at the crown. Like, it's huge. And one of our visitors said they actually saw and it rattled and hissed a rattlesnake was in that rhubarb plant. So we're going to cut that down here. And then people have said they've seen it on the trail, especially when we were doing horse rides. But yeah, we're right up against the monument where there's, no hunting, no disruption. And of course, people see them on the monument all the time. So we get a lot of deer. We have some bighorn sheep every once in a while. So we do get wildlife come down from that, but I'm actually surprised that that's the first snake I've seen here, especially when we go out and take kids out. But we're pretty cautious of walking in tall grass, the typical Nebraska stuff that you do.
Maybe Brock and his rabbit could help out with that. If you wanted him to stay a little longer.
Yeah. No,
You never know.
snakes and spiders are pretty much the no, and people tend to really freak out about those. And I don't need some poor lady or dude just come screaming through the exhibit hall because, everybody pictures this python-sized snake and it's actually the size of a pencil. So
Yeah.
It's a snake. It's a snake.
You can still keep your snake, and I'll keep the rabbits over here.
I'll keep the bird.
right.
But the scary part about baby rattlers is theoretically their bites are worse because they have the same intensity of venom as adults.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more concentrated, obviously, because there just isn't as much volume. I don't know. At Chimney Rock, that visitor center seems to be located on sort of the Snake I-80, because there are a whole series of buttes behind the visitor center that Chimney Rock is sort of a part of. And then, of course, further to the north is our irrigation canals and eventually the Platte River. And so it turns into sort of this vacation highway, or let's go south. Let's go south for the summer. So all the snakes come down to be closer to the water and stuff in the summertime. And then when it starts to get cool, they go back up and they nest up for the
rocks.
In the butte.
The rocks that are still warm.
Rocks and stuff. And so there have been many occasions where the staff there has found, not a bunch of them, but 2.5 foot long, 3 feet long snakes. Typically, they see them early in the morning when they're trying, and in the fall when they're trying to sort of like get warm, and so they're trying to get warmth off of the residual heat from the concrete along the sidewalk. But that whole issue of where they are and who's going to step out of a building and find them.
Yeah. Mary, do you have any interesting things with the humanities for interesting and weird stories, or why?
I can't think of any. I guess we've been fortunate in that regard. If something comes to mind, I'll jump in, but I can't think of anything.
Or how you handled things. One of my other weird things is occurrences, I guess, and it was a donation that come in from a local person, and he had a kind of a model of a house, and it was looked like an older type item. And with that, I said, "What do you know about it? What significance is it? What's its history? Whatever. Did you make this? Oh no, I don't know who did. But have you had it for very long? Oh, not really." So I thought, well, I don't think I can really keep it then if I don't have the history part to it and what the significance is. So this gentleman, he was very persistent that I have it. And I'm, you need to keep it here. You need to keep it here. So then the next conversation was, at this point, I kind of thought he's maybe off of his meds, like your other, like Karen's people were. And he says, "Have you thought about having teepees here in town? Can you live in teepees here in town? I want to see if we can start a thing with living in teepees here." And I said, well, with this nice gentleman he was a local. And I said, what kind of things would this be? He says, well, it would be people, just everybody living in teepees. And I said, well, Broken Bow is named for an Indian, but I think you have to get the zoning board's approval to have that type of housing. Has to be substantial and has to be, durable. He says, well, I think we should have those. Then he went on to say, and we should replace the newest hotel right across the thing here that matches like our old one right across the street here, and tear it down to make it look much, much better. And I was like, it looks very fine right now. And what's the cost that going to be? You got to consider that. He says, oh, I think we can get everybody to help. Not going to be that case. Then his last one, I thought he was for sure off of his meds. He said he wanted to have a train, a rail station, rail built around Custer County that you could ride and people could ride to see the things around Custer County. And I said, well, I don't know if you can get the landowners to give that, to get a railroad to put in right now, just to see people around Custer County. It's just going around Custer County, not connecting with this other stuff. It's like, oh, okay. So the weird part of that was, I said, okay, just leave it here and on your way. Okay, so he left. And then in a little bit, he had not returned for anything. And I thought, okay, I'll just set this here and figure out how to dispose of it, or what am I going to do with this, and figure out something. In 2 days, I had the law come in. Do you have this little house that's like a little model? And I said, oh, yes. And did it come from this person? I said, yes. And can I have it? I said, you certainly can, because I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So it was something that he had done around and had a little problem going around, but that was things that he had stopped at. We were one of his places to help out with.
Wow.
So a weird item, but occurrence, but it was like, okay. But we had a different reason for the police to be here, but we did not make the news on that one either. So, Vonda, are you on? I have one down in the corner here that has Vonda Shaw.
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm in and out.
Are you from a museum, a certain area?
I work at the Ford Center for History Nebraska.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to assume, Vonda, you have to have some sort of like interesting object that you've preserved there or something, some interesting story, right?
Yes, but not necessarily some of the best. They're kind of personal, like tragedy kind of things, which is not necessarily a good thing.
We've talked about, the people in the seats up there at the state getting, having sex in the things, and having a rabbit loose, having a bird loose, having, the burial of this one or that one, and workers coming in, and people and snakes. Yeah.
We have definitely had the snakes, like a snake in our elevator, which you wouldn't think, but just random things like that. I guess we've had, items in that are very, personal to people. And so they've come in distraught and then subsequently have come back for things in such a frenzy that it's just like, no, I can't, I can't leave this here. It's just too much, and having to leave. So it's more of a, personal nature than anything. So, not weird stories of things happening. No, not really.
So and interesting things that you've conserved. Then.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we've had more things about people here being creeped out by dolls and puppets that we've had more than anything. Because we also have to cover things. And so if you come into the lab when it's dark, having just like a body-sized form or something laying on the table seems kind of creepy sometimes.
Yeah. Is there any topic on the next part? Is there a topic we would like to have for the next meeting? Next month will be September, I believe, 24th, like that. I've left my desk over there. For a topic or interest or things going on, anybody have an topic that we might do?
Well, and we had said maybe there would be interest in having further conversation about safety and security issues.
Okay.
For facilities, but I mean, that's not exactly a happy face thing. I don't know. I mean, I suppose safety and security could even include what's going to happen between now and the end of September in terms of COVID, because I don't know about all y'all, but certainly in Lincoln, there's a mask mandate in Lancaster County now, but of course, the governor won't let Douglas County institute a mask mandate, and all of the predictions are the numbers are going to get worse before they get better. So, I mean, we're hoping that we won't see any implication to any of our operations, but I don't know. I mean, y'all on the front lines may end up having to reconsider how you're.
Yeah,
we just had our first few cases of staff getting COVID. And so we're starting to, and one of them was vaccinated, and she's probably the one that's down and out the most.
Wow.
So we've stepped up. Our city's pretty much said they're not doing masks. Some of the schools are getting on the news because of their lovely debates with schools and being superhumans about that. But yeah, it'll be interesting because our area, I'm sure a lot of you guys, it's super polarized of where people are. And then as an institution, it's like, well, what face do we present to you to kind of make everyone feel comfortable here and keep everyone safe?
Well, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services is working with the American Library Association and the American Alliance of Museums and stuff. And they're trying an initiative that they're calling Communities of Immunity. And what they're trying to do is help museums and libraries think of ways that they can engage their audiences in this whole discussion about vaccination and other ways that immunity can be achieved or precautions that can be taken and stuff. So there might be some resources there that people would find useful. I don't know, because I think that
would maybe come in with the security and the precautions and things like that all into one kind of thing. Maybe that might be something of what precautions or what things are now being enacted in our own facilities that may not be mandated, but what are we changing?
Yeah, and if people want to talk about actual physical security with security cameras and doors locked, that sort of, having multiple staff on site, I think that's a good idea too.
Right, and while it wouldn't necessarily apply to me since I'm state government, but some smaller institutions might be looking for ways to fund security ideas. Like what can we do with, our limited funding versus what kind of grants might be out there to, most people, you think about grants for collections and exhibits, but are there grants out there for infrastructure and security? And I know they're out there. I couldn't tell you what they are, but a lot of museums, smaller museums might not know that that's even an option.
Yeah.
Or even strategies like just installing a ring, so that you've got a camera by the front.
Basic camera
that feeds to your phone,
Believe me, I've thought about doing that outside my door.
Just out of curiosity, how many of you have mask requirements for your facilities?
Ours is kind of weird. We're our staff, we have certain protocols, but since we're city owned, we can't do anything that the city doesn't back. So we strongly encourage, but then as staff, if we give any face-to-face programming, we have to be masked. Or if I give a school program, I have to be masked, or a planetarium show. Right now, a lot of people are wearing them more just because we had a huge festival of Kool-Aid days and all of its craziness. And now 2 members got COVID. And of course, one of them is all over the building. So everyone's just kind of being extra cautious, but actual mandates, we don't really have anything going on.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we don't have masking, but I'm on that we're on that verge of, do we need to put back onto that? So, I would guess in a month, we will be in mask again. The schools have been back in the different pieces. As the things go, we're seeing that we have some active cases in the county, but what our different ones are, but we're masked probably will come back in. But back to the other basic security, that would be an interesting one of availability, or where you could get some funds to make the security, get some of that basic for the small ones would be something interesting. Mary, do you have something in that?
Oh, well, we just follow the, basically follow the city. Of course, now we're required to wear masks indoors as long as that mandate stands. Just in our office, we have been wearing masks in common spaces, the staff. We don't really have visitors for the most part, so that hasn't been an issue for us.
Mm-hmm. And I see our visitors have been going, and this last 3 weeks or so, they have dramatically dropped off for visiting. So that type of thing has been doing, but when they're coming in from all different areas, they are masked coming to us, and majority of our area is not in mask. So it's they're traveling. So they said, we're going from place to place. It's courtesy, we'll just do. So you see both the ways, like, well, yes, I went up, I have mine in my pocket. So it's like, yes, it's not that far away. So it's like, yep. So kind of contemplating, I have a Massachusetts one and another coming in, Michigan coming in after Labor Day that will be here doing research. So I will be with them face to face. So I will probably instill that time, start in doing the masking, in that way. But next one would be an interesting conversation to have the security. If that will do some talking and get an idea out to it, and what we will have as a topic. And is there anybody that would like to host that next one? It does not have to be a board member. Any takers? It's up for grabs yet. So at the next board meeting, we'll have some ideas to what we might have and kind of decide some things like that. So, I'm doing the hosting and Kelly is doing was it proctoring? Is that what you call it? Yeah. So, but it's just talking and you being that part. So it's not like all of us have done something or some of us have done that. So, but always interesting. So.
A board member will definitely do the part that I'm doing because you have to log into the account and then kind of check, monitor the participants list.
Yeah. So is there any other questions or any other comments? Anybody else want to add anything?
Just stay safe, everybody.
Yes.
There's a guy who's on the Lincoln School Board who's also an MD, and he also has a degree in public health from Johns Hopkins. And he has a great analogy. I don't know if it's his or if it's something that he saw someplace else, but he talks about Swiss cheese and slices of Swiss cheese. And any given slice of Swiss cheese has a hole in it. But if you've ever bought like 6 slices of Swiss cheese from the deli and you hold it up to the light, no light gets through because the holes are in different places. And so his analogy is if you've got an immunization, if you're vaccinated, if you're wearing masks, if you're social distancing, if you're washing your hands frequently, if you're taking these kinds of social distancing precautions, you essentially create your solid block of Swiss cheese, whereas any one of those things alone might not guarantee your immunity. So
that's a good analogy.
Yeah,
yes, like one will have whole, something, but the others don't. Yeah. So, but with that, you want to conclude and.
I have one thing. We finally dropped our first podcast, and it is on Spotify and a bunch of different places. So it's just you can go to the website legacypodcast.net and download it. There's a bunch of other stuff on there too, videos that we've kind of been working on with somebody, but so we are live and ready to go.
Cool.
Congrats.
We'll see how it goes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see everybody. And see you next month.
Take care.
Okay, thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.